In this video, we will be seeing how do we divide decimals. So dividing decimals is similar to dividing numbers, as we follow the same steps on how we just divide numbers. But yes, there are some things just like in the previous video, we saw how do we multiply two digits which have both decimal, two numbers which have decimals each. Same way, today we also will be seeing how do we divide decimals when only one number has a decimal, and when both the divisor and the dividend have decimals, how do we divide these decimal numbers? So let's go on and see how do we divide decimals, starting with the simple ones first. As you can see, a question, whichever dividing question will be given to you in this form. So this is 9.24 divided by 7. 7 is called the divisor and 9.24 is called the dividend. So the dividend goes inside and the divisor is the number which we are going to divide it with. Okay, now as you can see here, it is in fact 9.24, which you just forget that there is a decimal point. Okay, forget that there is a decimal point and just divide how you normally would. So when you normally divide numbers, how do? You start by comparing the first two digits. So can you divide 9 by 7? Yes, that will give you a 1. So then multiply. 7 ones are 7. So 9 minus 7 will give you 2. So the next step is bring down the 2, the digit next to 9. So that will give you a 22. So 22 divided by 7 will give you 3. So 7 threes are 21. The next step is subtract. 2 minus 1 is 1. So bring down the 4 as well. You keep dividing until all the numbers in the dividend has been brought down and used. So bring down the 4, so that's 14. So 14 divided by 7 will give us 2. So you put the 2 up and then you multiply it back. 7 2s are 14. So the remainder stays 0. Now, once you have multiplied that like as if there is no decimal, because the rule stays the same as for multiplication, because we are dividing decimal numbers, yes, you should place the decimal right on top of the decimal here, or you can even count like how many place values are there here. So depending on that, you can place the decimal point. Now it's really important that you write the numbers right under each place value, rather than like writing 1 here, 3 in between, because if you write the numbers right under each place value, as I told in the previous video, it will be easier for you to place the decimal right on top of the same place. Okay, let's move on and see another example. Okay, now this is a more simpler question where we have 8.6 divided by 2. 8.6 is the dividend and 2 is the divisor. Now the steps remain the same. You have to divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and repeat the steps. So here, again, just forget that there is a decimal point. Just forget about the decimal point. No decimal point. And just you divide 86 by 2. So when you divide 86 by 2, you will get 43. Now 43, now after you finish, you can see that you have to place the decimal point. So where do you place the decimal point? Right above the decimal point, which is in the dividend. Now this is only when you are dividing, only when the dividend has a decimal point. The divisor does not have a decimal point. In both the examples which we saw now, the divisor, that's the number which we are dividing, is not having a decimal point. This is easier. Now let's go to the next slide, which has both decimals. Here you can see the dividend has a decimal as well as the divisor has a decimal. Now what do we do when the divisor and dividend both have decimals? We have to write the number like that, 20.4. Okay, write the number and then 5.1. Now keep in mind always that you cannot divide unless your divisor is having a decimal point. So you need to get rid of this decimal point. So in the mathematical way, how do we get rid of this decimal point? You just multiply it with 10. Okay, so because it's only one place value, we multiply it with 10. If it was 2, then we multiply it with 100. But To make it easier for you, I just say move the decimal which is in the dividend away. So how many places do you need to move to take it away? From 5.1 to move it away. So just move one decimal, one number place, right? So because you need to move, you have moved one place here, you need to do the same in the dividend too. Okay, so because here we moved just one place value, here also you need to move another place value from the dividend as well. Now keep in mind, if you moved two place values in the divisor, you need to move two place values in the dividend as well. Okay, now once you have moved, what is the number we are left with? We have 204 divided by 51. Now it's simple as that. You cannot divide 2 by 51. You cannot divide even 20 by 51. You have to divide a complete 204 by 51. Now it's not necessary that we place a 0 before any number, but yes, you have to place a 0 before the decimal point. If, for example, if the z point was here, you have to put a 0 in front of the decimal point. But here, there is already a number in front of the decimal point, so we don't need to add the 0. It's not necessary. So 4 multiplied by 51 will give you 204. So 204 minus 204 is 0. So what's the answer for 20.4? 20.4 divided by 5.1, it is 4 only. You don't say 4.0, you don't say that. 4.0 is 4, so you just say it as 4. Okay, now to make it more, little bit more deeper, let's go to another example. Okay, now this is the same. Here are the steps given to you. If you want to read the steps, you can pause the video here and read the steps slowly and understand them. Okay, now it's similar to what we had before, but here we will see the number, what happens to the dividend when it moves one place value away. So the question is 0.42 divided by 0.6. Okay, so if we write it in the proper long division method, we will have 0.6 outside and 0.42 inside. Okay, don't get confused with these zeros, with the arrows. Now what's the first step we have to do? You know that we cannot divide unless the decimal in the dividend divisor is moved. So how many place values do I need to move the decimal to remove it away? I need to just move one place value. Okay, just one. Now where is the decimal in the original dividend? It's between 0 and 4. So because you have removed the decimal from the divisor, you need to move it one place value between the dividend as well. So now where is the new place for the decimal point in the dividend? It is between 4 and 2. Okay, so you'll be left with the number 4.2 divided by 6. Now if you have a paper and pen with you, you can start dividing 4.2 by 6 and check the answer which you are getting. You'll be getting an answer of 7. Okay, because you cannot divide 0 by 6, you cannot divide 4 by 6, you have to divide 42 by 6. When you are dividing, just forget about the decimal point. You have to remember the decimal point only once you finish dividing. Okay, so 42 divided by 6 will give me 7, but there is a decimal point in between 4 and 2. So where do you place it? You place it right above it, which is between 7. And in case if you don't write a number here, you have to put a 0, because before the decimal there should be a number. In this case we don't have a number, so we add a 0. But only the important thing is place the decimal right above where it is. Okay, so this is another example here. The question is 0.352 divided by 0.22. Now, in this number, again, we have to write it in the same way. The dividend we have to put inside and the divisor outside. So how many decimal places do we need to move to remove the decimal from the divisor? We have to move 1 and then 2. What happens to the decimal which is in the dividend? It moves 2 places as well. So 1 here and 1 here. So which is the new place for the decimal point? It is between 5 and 2. So here they have rewritten the question. Just think, if you remove the decimal point, you will be left with 022. What does 022 mean? It means it's 22. So that's why they rewrote the question again by saying it is 22 and then 35.2, because there is no use of the 0 which is in front of the 3 as well. Once the decimal is moved, if the decimal did not move, yes, the 0 has a place, but because the decimal moved away, the 0 doesn't have a place, which means it is 335.2. Now, divide normally how you would. Forget about the decimal for a minute until you divide. You cannot divide 3 by 22, so you divide 35 by 22. 22 divided by 35 divided by 22 is 1. Multiply that. So when you subtract, you will get 13. Bring down the 2. 132 divided by 2 will give you a 6. 6 multiplied by 22 will give you 132. Just divide it as usual. The only important thing is the decimal point placing. If you have written the numbers right under each other, it will be super easy for you just to place it above the decimal point wherever it is. Okay, so I hope this lesson is clear for you, because it's the same. Just divide how you would divide and place the decimal point. Only thing you have to be a bit careful is when the divisor as well as the dividend have both decimals, you need to move the decimal away from the divisor. So that many places, the decimal will move in the dividend as well. So this was all about dividing with decimals.